Week in Lacrosse, presentation of Lacrosse Inside the Game. My name is Gary Mark, along with Ron Messer. And Ron, we're into another week.
Well, this is Ron at third place, or in the standings, Messer. And we've got a lot of things to talk about this week. One is a question we got to ask you, the fans. And Gary, what is it?
You had to throw that in, third place Messer. We're going to get to that in a little bit. We actually had a great comment last week from a fan, I think it was Frank Benevuto, if I got that name right, I'm sorry Frank, asking on the site about the possibility of us doing a live webcast where fans could either phone in or I guess email in, probably is the easier way to do it. And I commented back to Frank saying that that is something that we've looked at. So I guess what you and I have discussed this a little bit, and one of the things that we'd like to throw out to people out there is what the response would be to something like that. If we were to sit at a computer, you know, go to a bar with a live audience, what sort of participation could we expect from the people out there? I mean, there's 101 lacrosse topics we could throw out there. At the end of the day, though, would people be interested in that? Would that be something that you guys would like to see?
Yeah, so, you know, let us give us your comments and write in into the site, and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah. So, first up this week, I'm going to hold off on this as long as I can with you in third place, but first up this week, a big announcement. We talked about a couple things kind of in the works in the past few weeks. The release of the Canadian Lacrosse magazine. That was a joint effort between myself and Sean Whiteley with photos from Marty Allenson, who does a lot of the work on our site, gives us a lot of the pictures to use. I am really, really thrilled with this magazine. I could not be more proud of how it turned out. And I got to give props to Sean. He contacted me back in October, November, asking if I would be into doing something like this, you know, geared towards kind of similar to what we do on the site. And he kind of took the ball and ran with it. So Sean, great job. You know, I'm really looking forward to this, and it's gone over really, really well so far. Yeah, that really cool picture of Micah Kersey on the front. I can hear all the NLL players just knocking at the door. Get me on there next. You know? Well, and I won't break any. I won't break any news yet, but we've got a number of guys lined up, so that's pretty good. One of the concerns, I guess, I had a couple people email me about, or I guess actually first the question: why would a Canadian magazine be charging U.S. funds? And the reason for that, I did explain it on the NLL site, the reason for that is where we're hosting it is down in Florida, and of course they don't accept Canadian funds or they don't accept Canadian payments, but we have figured out a way to do mail-in payments for those that still don't trust PayPal or I mean, it is a secure thing, I use it all the time, but for those that would rather mail, we are going to be announcing in the next few days a way for people to fill out a form and mail in a payment, and we can get them signed up as well. So, as you said, Micah Kersey on the cover of #1. That was a great story with Mike as well. I'm not going to release who's coming up, but we do have a ton of stuff. One of the things I will tell you right now, Sean and I talked today, and we're going to do this going forward. There's going to be, every month, we are going to do a review and a story on 2 minor lacrosse associations in Canada.
Fantastic. And
I'm not going to tell you who they are for next month, but we have already got them confirmed, so you'll have to get the magazine to check it out.
Yeah, and you know, and when this begins to grow, you know, let's hope that we can host the teams from all over the country. So
absolutely, and I mean, the reason we decided to do 2 is because we could run this magazine for 5 years and still not touch all of the associations across Canada. So that was a bit of exciting news, something I know a lot of friends on Facebook I had kind of teetering what was going on, what I had kept putting notes on, so really, really pleased with that. Again, great job, Sean, and looking forward to going forward with this magazine. I think it's going to be a great deal, $7 for a year, minimum of 6 issues, and as I put on the site, there's not going to be 6 issues. There's going to be 6 issues by June, and then the rest of the year there's going to be probably 3 or 4 more. So anyways, that was #1. #2, I just announced today that we did agree with the Major Series Lacrosse that we will be hosting live on our site, as we did last year, the 2009 Major Series Lacrosse Draft.
Yep, and that's coming up Tuesday.
Next Tuesday night, February the 3rd.
That's correct.
They're slated to start that at 9:00 p.m. and that is supposed to be through conference call. So I will be in on that call and therefore be able to sit right at my computer. I have put a little bit of a story on the fan forums and on the site today, but I will post a link so that people can come to our site. I think last year we got over 1,000 people came to that night that we had the draft last year, where we were at, and posted who all the picks were. So
it's the first step out of junior to a major series, and then hopefully you know, the big show, the NLL. Not that I think one is any better than the other. I think there's just as good a games, if not better games, in the major series. So it's a very exciting thing for a lot of people.
Yeah, and the thing is that it just goes to reiterate or prove to people that people want to know this information.
Yes.
I know when I approached the Commissioner Jim Brady last year and excuse me, a couple of the general managers, and I asked could we attend that and then report back on it. They agreed wholeheartedly. They thought, hey, this is a great thing. You know, if we can get some exposure and let people know as soon as possible who the picks are.
Yeah.
But I think they were a little bit blown away, and I was surprised. I mean, I wasn't blown away, but I think they were a little bit surprised that we got the amount of visits that we did. But again, as we've talked about so often, people need to know and people want to know.
Yes.
And that proved it.
And this is the #1 source on the internet, as far as I'm concerned, for news about all lacrosse.
Absolutely. All right, it's time. And go ahead. I don't know what you were thinking, but you picked Boston to sweep Philly last weekend. I think you were the only one in the pool that did it, and that vaulted you up into third place. You're only 2 games behind Bub Kiss and Ratty M. Those guys have been in first place for the first 4 weeks. But you got closer. What the heck was that?
What I based it on, I think I'll say it again, is I've seen Dan Dawson play a number of times in different teams, and it doesn't matter who Dan Dawson plays with, that team steps up. And he's got a good supporting cast behind him. He's got Anthony Cosmo in net. He's got Nick Cotter, local boy from Whitby here, and just a terrific bunch of players. And he's a leader. He's a real leader, and I thought Philly didn't look too good in their opening couple of games, and I just thought, you know what, Cosmo's got something to prove. He's been talked about as being the #1 goal in the NLL at the present moment. Dan Dawson, one of the marquee players. Home opener for them. You know, the TD Bank North Garden, great black boards. I don't know if you saw that. That's really cool. I like that. Yeah. And I just thought, you know what, this is one of those times. Philly, see the crowd in Philly, 9,800, and you know. So that's why I picked them. I went. I just took a real hunch. I'm not going to say I'm a smart guy or anything like that.
I was just going to say after that long-winded answer. So basically, you flipped a coin.
Yeah.
Actually, just a couple of comments. Dan Dawson at game Saturday night, I'm not 100% sure, 7 assists.
7 assists.
I know at one point, I don't know if that's what he ended with.
Yes, he did.
Daryl Veltman. Boy, oh boy. You know, Dawson, I think the logic now is, well, if you're going to double team me, that's fine. I'll just give it off to somebody else that can score. And Daryl Veltman, wow, he really impressed me. Say back into the East, Buffalo went into Minnesota, and that was a game I said last week when I picked Buffalo. I mean, I think everybody on the site picked Buffalo, and early on, I think they jumped out to a 6-1 lead on Minnesota, but Minnesota clawed their way back, and I was very nervous. I thought Buffalo was a better team. But in Minnesota, I thought it was going to be a very tough game. And sure enough, 10-9, I believe it was a 1-goal game.
Yes.
And Minnesota had a chance late in the game to tie that. You know, I think Minnesota just solidified themselves. I'm sure all along they knew they can compete. But when the rest of the league now sees, you know, Buffalo beat Minnesota by a single goal, that certainly makes other teams take notice that, hey, these guys are for real.
Yeah, send a message out for sure. Buffalo was, you know, but then again, Buffalo, the top team so far, as everybody's saying. Every team's going to bring their A game.
Yeah.
You know, the Rock, you know, they lost to them, but not by a ton. By
8-6,
you know, it wasn't a lot of goals.
Yeah.
So everybody's going to bring their A game. So, you know, have your heads up, Buffalo. Everybody's gunning for you.
Yeah, and I'm sure they know that. Yeah. The last game I'm going to touch on for last week, I did make a comment last week on the video. Is there anybody outside of Casey Powell, is there anybody more valuable to his team than Mark Steenhouse? And I think I maybe want to revisit that because Patty O'Toole came back for Rochester last week. After surrendering 23 goals against Buffalo, 16 goals against San Jose, Patty O'Toole comes back into the lineup. They lost the game to New York 8-7.